Yeah. So we've obviously got we've got yeah, this week's like our last kind of full week of December, and then I reckon we got two good days next week and two good days the week after. But we're gonna obviously try and pick up what we can in between. Hopefully gold's gonna be our friend or continue to be our friend. Friday was good because I saw obviously a lot of groups, and obviously Friday afternoon everyone was behind. Wanted that continuation, that buy. However, if you understand obviously how Friday flows were profit taking, it was always going to drop. So congratulations, obviously everyone who caught onto that one. Right, I'm going to go through a few things. But obviously, while I'm going through it, get your questions ready. Obviously, this is your opportunity to ask me whatever you want. If you're, stuck on anything, or if you've got any bad habits you want help to get out of, or if there's any, trades that you're, looking at, or trades that you took, start obviously to get your questions in, and then obviously, we can work through them. Remember this is obviously your opportunity to obviously ask me questions. And so, make sure, you obviously make the most of it. So, just obviously you guys know what I like to do, Sunday, a bit of an overall outlook. All right. We do have to remember it's December, it's coming into that time of the year, especially like I said, Christmas Day, no trading. Christmas Eve, probably do London, session, that's it. And then obviously we'll close for Christmas and obviously just enjoy it. So yeah, that is the plan. Boxing Day, I might look at a couple of things, but nothing major. And then obviously we've got the weekend, and then obviously we've got Monday, Tuesday, and then obviously I think New Year's Eve is on a Thursday, so potentially Wednesday. Thursday might be a bit quiet, but yeah, right. Got quite a heavy, fundamental week this week. Monday, not a major lot of happening. We've obviously got, Chinese unemployment. I've spoken about this, so many times. China and Aussie are key trade partners. So naturally, if the Chinese economy is doing well, then it tends to prop up the Aussie economy, which is doing pretty well anyway. So obviously got the unemployment rate. Every single economy has been struggling with employment apart from Canada. So it'd be interesting to see how China get on too. Um, excuse me. So we've obviously got a bit of an inflation week this week. Inflation data, the main reading is CPI. So obviously we've got it for Canada on Monday. We've got it for nothing for Tuesday. We then got it. Is this all molded into one? Tuesday. There's loads going on for the US dollar Tuesday. But obviously looking into, CPR, we've got pound and euro Wednesday. And then we have then got US inflation data on Thursday. So it's going to be a really, really active week. There's tons of news there. There's obviously an interest rate decision for the pound. There's an interest rate decision for euro. There is a lot, going on. We've got retail sales for both, obviously, pound and CAD. So pretty heavy week, which will be brilliant because obviously that's what we need. We need kind of markets to be shaken up a bit, and so then it's gonna free up some moves. Everything's been kind of not really moving that crazy. Obviously, apart from, well, not even gold's been moving that crazy. But if we don't look at obviously where the dollar is overall here. All right, we're obviously now we've got, we were beginning of the week, we're obviously trading around this area here, 99. Now we're trading, 99 500. So we're probably going to be looking to, sell the dollar anywhere underneath here, so even if it comes up here, that's going to allow our GBP USD, Euro USD, AUD USD to then come back to where we want it. So obviously we can buy and obviously then capitalize on that move. But I would imagine we're going to be looking to to sell as long as we're below this level here. That is the overall kind of macro outlook. Obviously, I'll do my daily analysis as the week goes on, but that's obviously the main one to look out for here. Is 99, which I do not think that this is going to breach this year. So just to be aware of it. As you can see, Friday we kind of had a bit of a tail off towards the end, but yeah, I only took gold on Friday afternoon. Aussie was obviously around break even. Euro didn't trigger. Pound obviously didn't trigger. Gold was brilliant. This was our area here. All right. You can see here, everyone was buying this. Everyone was. But obviously, you've got to understand, and obviously I'll go through it again. That obviously, if you got people at the beginning of the week, which is Monday here, right? Anyone buying from here is going to get to Friday and think, you know what, I've smashed it. I'm going to close out. And obviously, it's the profit taking after moves like this, which encourage this move here. It isn't going to completely follow through, but it's, that was plenty. I mean, even this move here that's like nearly, well, it is 800 pips, all right? If you'd have obviously entered here and obviously gone from the bottom. So, yeah, was obviously happy with that. And I don't think USD JPY was the last one that didn't trigger either, So I'm going to obviously be clearing all these off. I don't trade, you guys who have been in here a long time. I don't trade, Sunday evenings. I just don't think it's worth it. I think it's a good kind of, show of your character and mental outlook that you're like, you know what, I'm gonna be patient, right? I'm not gonna like wait for 10 and be like, you know what, I'm gonna rush in, I just want to enter a trade, let me trade. You're gonna be like, nah, I'm gonna wait, and hopefully Monday we'll start the ball rolling. Normally on a Monday we do tend to start it kind of steady. We don't start the week's marathon sprinting. We obviously like to start it. It's the nice gentle jog. Um, so yeah, let's wait and see. Right, let's go through a couple of these questions. Right. Logan or Benny Logan, what's your opinion on BTC? So I'm actually in a BTC trade. I've been in it in a while. It's a bit of a swing trade. Honestly, I don't really know. I wasn't expecting this drop here. I'm not gonna lie. This Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday after the news, and obviously the US dropping interest rates, I was expecting this to trickle up. This is my kind of target here. I'm not targeting all time highs. I entered on this yellow line here. I'll still hold. My obviously hope was that before the end of the year, we're going to be back trading up here. If you look at every single time, it's been a long time ago, but every single time it's broken below, like for example here, right? Broke through, it came up and retested, all right, before we had this deep kind of correction here, So obviously when it crosses, it normally pops up, nicely. So as you can see here, the 50 has crossed the 200, so we should at least, see this area get hit here. So that's what I'm kind of hoping. But obviously, Bitcoin is just pure hype, but I think hype's high. I don't think obviously overall hype is, low. Um, so, hype is high, so I just think it's yeah, I don't really know. But yeah, as long as yeah, I'm gonna hold it. It's obviously how I trade Bitcoin, as long as you're not buying sort of 20% from the highs, you should be always, okay. Sean, what's your opinion on dollar recently from the interest rate and the overall macro? Not great, it isn't good to obviously be reducing interest rates, because you imagine that there's not obviously, it's good for the retail industry because obviously it's cheaper to borrow on a car, it's cheaper to borrow on a house, it's cheaper to borrow on a credit card. It encourages to spending, all right, which is what they want. To the end of the day, a country works well if everyone is putting their own money into their neighbor's hand, their neighbor puts into the other hand, the other, and that's obviously how a very, very basic way of how an economy works. But obviously, it's the bigger investments from for example, China. That will be um, that they're not going to be as happy to come in, because obviously interest rates have dropped, so that they're looking at on the flip side rather than trying to borrow, they're obviously trying to make money. And obviously, if the interest rate is lower or yields drop, and obviously that's lower too, then obviously the return on investment isn't as high, so they're going to look for other places to put it, which was obviously my my kind of outlook, I guess, on Bitcoin. Was that potentially it might be a place where everyone might just put a little, not all of it, but a little bit more capital. Eddie, can you go through how you decide where you enter your trades? I think I have gone through this quite a bit, but I'll go through it, one more time. So, for example, if we're going to wake up, tomorrow, and this is obviously where GBP USD is. All right. We've already worked out that because the dollar is below 9.99, we've already worked out the direction of where we want to take this trade. So before you've even opened GBP USD, Euro USD, AED USD, Gold, and USD JPY, I know which way, that I'm going to trade them. So, normally what's been working for me really, really well at the moment intraday has been the 2 hour. So normally I'd be highlighting, where price has, struggled previously. And then I'd, look into different options. So you would probably have two options here, yeah? All right, but chances are it would probably be this option here. Yeah, we can all see, but the bulk of price has, struggled in regards to direction from here. So once it breaks it, it's gonna then if it's struggled when it's in this area, it's gonna then struggle to break through, so that this whole box here, and I'm liking areas, as opposed to kind of fixed price, because this whole area here, right, if it's struggled to break through it previously, it's going to struggle to break through it again. All right, so then I'd be, happy to enter anywhere in this area here. All right, stops below, probably even below here, because obviously if that breaks, it's going to then invalidate everything, and then a nice 1 to 2. So that's obviously part and parcel how it kind of works. Do you use your invalidation as your stop? I never let it get near that point except for once on gold. It took at least 2 weeks to recover that loss. Would you just leave and take the loss or advise on stops? So what I normally, say to everyone, we've actually had I think we've only had two who that have hit, the invalidation. One was gold, and obviously one was GBP. But obviously, even on the gold one, we were also in. I think it was GBP and your USD. So if you aggregate them together, then you're obviously the other two were in profit, and yes, obviously gold hit stop loss, but remember as well, you want to be trading half as much on gold as you do on your currency pairs. So to make it easy, if you're trading one lot on, say, for example, Euro USD, you want to be trading 0.05 on gold. So because we do need, a slightly larger, stop loss. So just being aware, do not trade, what you would normally. Um, what I've been doing as well, which I've obviously been happy with, is, if I have, if for example in the morning it gets to 12 and obviously the morning sessions in profit, what I've been doing is to just closing everything. All right, because it does, it's not going to matter to me if we've say for example we've entered three trades, all right, and I'm in profit on gold, I'm in profit on GBP USD, but I'm in a bit of loss on USDJPY, all right? Just close them all out, all right? You don't have to wait, try and be a bit humble. Don't obviously hold USDJPY just because it's in a loss, and obviously your mind hates to see red. It wants to see it in blue. Just close it, because if we're in profit overall, then yeah, and obviously that's been working really, really well, because and what's been happening too is the analysis that I've been doing in the morning when I've been obviously looking over it and publishing in it, but between obviously half one and two, it's pretty much similar. So there's obviously no point holding. We might as well take some profit off the table. We've been really, really accurate, because obviously we're going with overall, macro data, and obviously we're trading around the, news. We haven't really had any huge problems, and so that's obviously one thing that I've been really, really happy with. So Skid, is risk management more to do with lots, or where stop loss is set? Everyone says use 1% risk, but when I'm entering trades on a buy limit from the signals, even a small lot size, the stop loss is still at more than 1% of my account. So I actually have a different opinion of this, because you know, I think market. Let me try and draw it out, and I'll have a think about how it's best to explain it. All right. So the idea is, right, if you got three trades, right, 1 to 3, yeah, all right, three trades, 1 to 3. Let's clone this twice. So clone. clone, right? How the market teaches, right? Which remember it's retailers teaching retailers here. That's why whenever I pay for any kind of meetings, I always want to speak to institutional traders, as opposed to, well, I would be classed as a retail trader, but the idea of, the overall kind of ROI, which everyone worries about. One thing I will point out before I go through this is hedge funds don't have a stop loss and they don't have a take profit. All right. They do, so I'll repeat that, right? They don't have so stop loss and they don't have a take profit. Even, someone like Warren Buffett, he doesn't have it, all right, because he's going with the overall outlook. And until all they do is until the outlook changes, they will just hold it. And if they don't think that even if outlook changes, but they think the longer term outlook is to continue, they'll still hold it, But obviously, the idea of this is you could obviously win this one, you could lose this one, and lose this one. So that here you're -1, here you're -1, and here you're +3, So you can obviously win one, lose two, and then you're still obviously one in profit, yeah? Right? That's how everyone kind of explains it, but so how I trade, we're obviously going with the overall, outlook against the US dollar, yeah? All right. And I obviously haven't picked, euro, Aussie, pound, yen. All right. And got gold. So 9 times out of 10, we've got probably 2 to 4 trades. If one triggers, normally two will trigger two to four. Yeah. All right. So against this, we're also backing. Obviously, we've got Aussie, we've got euro, we've got yen, we've got pound, and obviously we've got com commodities, so 9 times out of 10, because we're going with the overall macro, outlook, and we're obviously, navigating high impact news too, we're not going to have these huge moves, yeah, against us. All right. So what we've been, finding is whatever whatever we've been entering hasn't really drifted too far from obviously our entry. All right. But even if one is, in a bit of a, loss, then but the other two will be in profit. All right. And obviously these two will counteract this one worst case. So you should always end up in profit. But there is, loads of different ways to obviously, work out risk management. And I'm definitely not, saying, not to have a, stop loss. I definitely think that you should have it, and it should be at a place that you're kind of, ha not happy, but it's not gonna hurt you. It's not gonna break you if it hits, stop loss. But I think in the last month we've only had two which have hit, stop loss, So I can kind of look at my my sort of directional bias. I'm normally about 85 percent right, and obviously that gives us enough of an edge to capitalize. So yeah. Stuart, sorry to sound stupid. Quick question, if I may. So, when we receive your messages, you do not state stop loss, only validation. That is the dot loss. All right. So I'm not legally obviously allowed to put the word stop loss, even though it's obviously just me documenting it. So obviously I've put in validation. So yeah, that's basically where the invalidation is. That would be my personal, stop loss. But every single, you can scroll through the inner, circle. Every single, session, I will tell you because I'm documenting when I am closing, and when it obviously triggers. David, I've been having trouble with trades triggering after setting up a buy limit or a sell limit when you post the trade ideas. Some have triggered, but most have not. How do we guarantee that they trigger? So, what you can also do, use the alert tool, So, for example, if we're looking for GBP USD, yeah. All right, why not put just before the trigger area, pattern alert. All right, that way when price crosses, it will ping you a notification on your phone, on your lap laptop, and obviously then yeah, you can obviously double check, but it's always gonna happen. When obviously relying on a broker, to obviously trigger us. Jacko, hi. Should we take the trades at the top of the range or the bottom of your range you provide, or try and have multiple orders? That is your choice. What I normally do, I'm pretty happy just to take them as they enter, because we've obviously had it lots of times where price obviously come down, it's just tapped and then gone, so yeah, but that's yeah, that's that's what I'm obviously happy to do by all means. Yeah, if you want to be a bit more patient. What I did on my smaller account, which obviously I gave away the money yesterday, but obviously what I was doing as a bit of extra risk was at the bottom of it. I was just obviously entering, and yeah, the areas that I'm using are very, very accurate, so I'm pretty happy, to do that. Stuart, excellent, thank you. Skid, I had a couple of trades not trigger that had just touched limits. Yeah, it's just brokers, timings or prices being slightly out. And so there's a couple of obviously options. One obviously would be to put an entry, say 2 to 3 pips above, or you just put an alert 2 to 3 pips above, and obviously then yeah, then you can you'll obviously be aware of when price is in and around that area. Uh, Omar, how are copiers set up? Would you have a BTC trade set up? Like I'd said, I'm very, very open. I don't like to trade Bitcoin, day trade it, scalp it. Bitcoin to me is not backed up by anything. It's pure hype. I think Warren Buffett, summed it up brilliantly. Where he basically said that he would never buy Bitcoin because he's always got to, sell it back to, someone. Basically, someone else has to buy it. All right, as opposed to a property or a company that's building things. Obviously they are, they're always making money. Whereas obviously Bitcoin, for you to get rid of it, someone else has to buy it off you. So that's that's one thing. And do you have another broker we can use? I have two problems with Vantage and don't seem to be resolved. Basically, drop us a message. We don't obviously work with any other brokers. Vantage or obviously FCA regulated, and obviously that's what I'm trying to moving into 2020, six. I'm going down the proper backed up, route. I think every time I've done a withdrawal, I've had it within about 5 minutes. So they are brilliant. But yeah, just drop me a message to my private Telegram, and tell me what the problems are, and obviously I'll be able to help you, or I'll be able to get somebody to help you. I matured into thinking that the sentiment is the main decider recently. Yeah, so Bitcoin, yeah, like I said, it's just hype. It's hype driven. Yeah. Veronica, when withdrawing money, is there a percentage to be paid to Vantage as a commission, or can you withdraw as much as you would like? I've not paid any commission. I've obviously withdrawn mine into crypto. It's been in my wallet within. I'm not even gonna, lie. Sometimes it's been, less than 2 minutes. The only thing that every single broker on this planet requires, and it's to obviously stop money laundering, is that obviously whatever you deposit in. So if you deposit from a card, if you do bank transfer, if you do Apple Pay, if you do crypto, if you do PayPal, you obviously have to, your first initial amount has to go back through that, before you obviously start using, other options to withdraw, because obviously that's them just obviously abiding by the money laundering laws. Chris, can you tell us all the reason why we need to move to Vantage? Yeah, because they're an FCA regulated broker, and yeah, that's why we've started working with Vantage. So yeah, we're happy. They're yeah, we obviously I went to their offices in Dubai. Really really impressed. Main thing was withdrawals, because obviously we have had in the past a few people, not obviously very happy with, obviously not being able to withdraw on other brokers. We obviously had two cases, and that was enough to, move us over to proper FCA regulated broker. But this is gonna time out. So hope everyone's had a great weekend. Hope everyone has a great evening. And yeah, well, obviously I'll be back live at 8, and let's smash it. Have a good one, team. Have a good one.